Once upon a time, there was a little fire flickering. The little fire was in a lamppost in the middle of a park, and it flickered high and it flickered low, and it would weave and bob from side to side and up and down, and would light the way for everyone walking through this path. Now, this flickering flame was situated in this park, in the part of the park that was woody, but there's still a path that you could easily trod. It was um, it was a path in the dirt, but it didn't get particularly muddy. Even on a really rainy day, it would just kind of stay a little elevated so that the water ran off. And to the side of this little mud path, there were grasses and trees and mosses. And in the summer, everything smelled so fresh and alive. And sometimes some little kids would come by and just sit down and pick some grass or some clover. And the smell was heavenly, but it wasn't heavenly, it was earthly. And they just sat there, those kids, imagining the smell of this grass wafting up to the heavens. Now, that little grass, when that little piece of grass and clover were broken, there were little droplets of scent that would just dance upwards. And the kids weren't making it up, it really happened. The smell would dance upwards into the sky. And there would be a cloud that would just be waiting for that smell in summer. Because that cloud would sit there with its nose facing down, just waiting to smell things like that. You know, it loved the grass and the clover. And sometimes it wondered, it saw these pretty yellow flowers like trumpets in the spring, and it wanted to know what those smelled like. And it would see these big red booming flowers and want to know what those smelled like. And even though they thought they were so beautiful to look at, the cloud wondered, does it have a scent? Is it like that grass and clover? I sure don't want anyone to have to break it apart and destroy its beauty. But if that's the only way to smell it just once in my life, I'd like to know. I just want to know, does it have a scent? One day, that summer, all the clouds came together. The sky got really dark, and it was the middle of the day. It turned gray and cloudy and gloomy, and it felt like the clouds were just rolling in so close to the earth. And the kids who were playing on their little meadow were like, oh no, this is going to be a huge storm. What is going to happen? Maybe we need to run for home. So they ran out of there super fast. They knew the path would be dry and carry them home, but they just had to go. And the clouds were so excited because now they had this whole park and path to themselves. And they started bouncing around like this big dance party, and all of that friction between them, but it was fun friction because you know when you get your dance on, like these clouds are having a great time. And all that crackling energy between them, it created the biggest booms of thunder. And then there were these bolts of lightning, like their arms were extended, energy flashing everywhere. And they were like, I think this is going to do it. I think these might reach those big, colorful things, and we might get to release that smell, and we're going to smell it at the end of this party. So they just danced and they crackled and they boomed, and the rains came down to wash everything out. And it was like the whole universe was releasing all that energy that they had built up. You know, winter had happened, and now, and then they had spring, and they had to like, it takes so much energy for those leaves to come out and those flowers to unfurl and everything. And the clouds are watching it all, but sometimes they just got to party. Like, they got to rejoice in the beauty of this world. So that's what they did. And through the crackling and the booming, it rattled the earth and it shook. It just shook everything just a little bit, not to destroy it, but just enough to crackle the skin of those grasses and clovers and flowers. At the end of this dance party, the clouds just chilled for a minute. They're just like, that was a good dance. I need to get a drink of water. I've got to refresh. And they each started to separate a little bit and relax. And as they did, the sun started to poke through and the air started to dry and the land started to dry. And the smell from that earth started to go upwards because, yeah, the skins of those petals were a little bit cracked and the blades of grass a little bit cracked. And, you know, sometimes when you think you get hurt, you think that you're never going to be able to rebuild yourself. You're going to bleed or you're going to get scarred or something. Sometimes what happens is you release something beautiful and you're able to rebuild. And yeah, maybe the petal got like a little line in it that was what some people call an imperfection, you know. But actually what happened was they released the smell and it reached those clouds. And those clouds loved them even more and gave them all that water that let them keep growing and patch themselves up so they could have the rest of the summer to be blooming and beautiful and green or red or yellow or any color that they were. That's what that rain allowed them to do. And that little lamppost, you know, that flame was encased in glass and it saw the whole thing. When it saw the lightning come down, it said, "That's my friend. We burn." And when it heard the rumbling, it just held on straight to its source and made sure it kept flaming. And when it saw the teeny little particles, because you know a light like that, flickers like that, it can shine a light on the smallest things that you could see these little beads of aroma reaching up. And it said, that scent is just like me because it's trying to bob and weave and reach up there too. And I know I'm encased in this glass, and maybe if I got let out, it would put me out. But I'm telling you, I'm watching those guys, and we're flying together. The next day, the kids came back to the park, and we saw that even though there was that huge rain that separated them and made them go home, that rain made their little patch of park brighter, greener, more lush, more full, more everything that they loved about it. They said, "It's going to be the best summer ever."